The door creaked open like a gunshot in the pre-dawn hush. And there he was, Elijah, my sister's boy, all of 19 and trembling like a leaf in a Texas twister. His eyes, those wide, storm-blue eyes that had always mirrored my own hidden storms, locked onto mine with a desperation that clawed at my gut. "Uncle Lucas," he whispered, voice cracking like dry earth under boot heels, "I can't pretend anymore. It's you. It's always been you." I bolted upright in the tangle of sweat-damp sheets, the air thick with the scent of last night's bourbon and regret, my heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape the truth barreling toward me. Elijah stepped closer, the faint light from the hallway haloing his silhouette, and in that frozen instant, I saw it all. The boy I'd bounced on my knee during family barbecues in Austin, now a man on the brink, his confession hanging between us like a noose woven from forbidden silk. The words hung there, heavier than the summer humidity that seeped through the cracked window of my cramped apartment on the edge of Austin's 6th Street. I'd moved here 5 years back after the divorce. Melissa, my ex, had finally had enough of my wandering eyes, as she put it, though we both knew it was more than that. More than the late nights at the bar, nursing whiskeys and stealing glances at the rough-hewn cowboys who wandered in from the rodeo circuit. It was the secret I'd buried deeper than my old man's grave. I was gay, plain and simple, and in the heart of Texas, that was a confession that could get a man tarred and feathered faster than you could say, "Don't ask, don't tell." Elijah hovered in the doorway, his bare feet silent on the worn hardwood, wearing nothing but a pair of faded Levi's that hung low on his hips, the kind that screamed rebellion against the starched khakis his mama made him wear to church. Sarah, my older sister, had raised him right, or so she thought, in that sprawling ranch house outside Round Rock, where the Bible thumped louder than the bass at a Willie Nelson concert. She'd shipped him off to me for the summer after his freshman year at UT flamed out in a haze of skipped classes and whispered rumors. "He needs a man's guidance. Lucas," she'd said over the phone, her voice sharp as barbed wire. "Straighten him out before he turns into one of those Austin weirdos." Little did she know. "Elijah," I managed, my throat dry as the Chihuahuan desert, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. The sheet pooled around my waist, leaving me exposed in just boxers, and for a split second, I cursed the heat that made clothes optional in this godforsaken city. "What the hell are you talking about? It's 4 in the morning. Go back to the couch." But he didn't move. Instead, he crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside the bed like a penitent at the altar. His hands gripped the edge of the mattress, knuckles white, and up close, I could see the faint stubble shadowing his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell in ragged bursts. He looked so much like Sarah at that age, fierce, unyielding, but with my eyes, my build, the family curse of broad shoulders and a restless soul. "I saw you last night," he said, the words tumbling out like he'd been rehearsing them in the dark. "At that bar on Congress. With that guy, the one with the tattoos. You were laughing, touching his arm, and God, Uncle Lucas, it hit me like a freight train. You're like me. Hiding it. And I've been hiding it too, but not from you. Never from you." My blood turned to ice water. The bar. Yeah, I'd slipped out after Elijah crashed early, telling myself it was just one drink to unwind from the awkward silences that had stretched between us all week. But he'd followed, or worse, spotted me by chance? The guy, Jake, some drifter with ink snaking up his arms like barbed wire fences, had been a mistake, a warm body to chase away the loneliness that gnawed at me like termites in old oak. Nothing more. But now, with Elijah's gaze boring into me, it felt like a spotlight on every shadowed corner of my life. "Kid," I said, reaching out to cup his chin, forcing him to meet my eyes. His skin was fever-hot under my palm, and the contact sent a jolt through me that I had no business feeling. "This ain't the time. You're confused. College does that, parties, girls, boys, whatever. But you can't. We can't." He jerked away, but not before I felt the tremor in him, the raw edge of something that had been festering too long. "Confused? I've known since I was 14, Uncle Lucas. Jerking off to thoughts of you at family Christmas, pretending it was just hero worship. You're the only one who ever saw me, really saw me, when Dad walked out and Mom buried herself in prayer groups. You took me fishing at Lake Travis, taught me how to throw a punch when those high school jocks called me a fag. And now I walk in on you with that guy, and it's like permission to say it out loud." The room spun, the faded posters of Stevie Ray Vaughan peeling from the walls blurring into a haze. Permission. Jesus Christ. I'd spent my life building walls higher than the Alamo, marrying Melissa to prove I was normal, adopting the uncle role like a shield, gruff, dependable Lucas, the black sheep who showed up for birthdays with six-packs and bad jokes. But Elijah, he was blood, forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden we'd never asked to inherit. "Get up," I growled, standing too fast, the sheet tangling around my ankles like chains. I yanked on a pair of jeans from the floor, the zippers rasped, the only sound breaking the thick silence. "We're not doing this. Not here. Not ever. You're my nephew, for God's sake." Sarah would skin us both. He rose slowly, unfolding like a switchblade, his height matching mine now, 6'2" of lean muscle honed from pickup basketball games and late-night runs to outpace his demons. Sarah? Mom? She'd pray the gay away if she could. But you get it. You've lived it. Why fight it? Because it's wrong? I snapped, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. Wrong by whose rules? The Bible thumpers at First Baptist? The small-town whispers that followed me back from Nam, where I'd learned to love in foxholes and forget in the light of day, or just plain human messiness, the kind that tore families apart like a twister through trailer parks? Elijah's face crumpled, a flash of hurt so profound it echoed my own buried aches. He backed toward the door, shoulders slumping. "Fine. Pretend. Like you do. But I'm done pretending. Tomorrow, I'm telling Mom everything." The threat landed like a sucker punch. Sarah, devout, unyielding Sarah, would crucify us both if she knew. She'd cut Elijah off, ship him to some conversion camp in the Panhandle. And as for me, brother or not, I'd be the devil incarnate, the one who influenced her perfect boy. "Wait," I called as he turned, my voice softer than I intended. He paused, silhouetted against the hallway's faint glow, and in that moment, the dawn broke fully, painting his features in strokes of rose and gold. He was beautiful, heartbreakingly so, and the realization twisted like a knife. We didn't sleep after that. Instead, we sat on the fire escape, nursing black coffee from chipped mugs, the city stirring below us like a beast rousing from slumber. 6th Street's neon ghosts flickered in the distance, food trucks firing up their grills with sizzles of bacon and migas. Elijah talked, halting at first, then in a rush, like uncorking a bottle of mezcal that burned going down. About the first boy he'd kissed behind the bleachers at prom, the shame that followed like a shadow. About watching me, idolizing me, weaving fantasies from the scraps of affection I'd tossed his way, a hug that lingered too long, a shared beer under the stars. I listened, the weight of 43 years pressing on my chest. I'd come out to myself in the jungles of Vietnam, where love was a foxhole whisper, gone by reveille. Back home, I'd buried it under ranch work, marriage, the endless grind of fitting in. Austin was supposed to be my fresh start. Live music, progressive vibes, men who didn't blink at two guys holding hands on Rainy Street. But family, that was the anchor dragging me back to the shallows. By noon, the heat was a hammer, forging our words into something sharper. "What now?" Elijah asked, wiping sweat from his brow with the hem of his shirt, flashing a strip of tanned abdomen that made my throat tighten. "Now, we keep it quiet. You focus on school. I'll figure my shit out." But even as I said it, I knew it was a dam ready to crack. That afternoon, we drove out to Barton Springs, the spring-fed pool a cool reprieve from the blaze. Swimmers dotted the water like confetti, families picnicking on the grassy banks, the air alive with laughter and the strum of distant guitars. Elijah stripped to his trunks without shame, diving in with a whoop that turned heads, his body cutting through the azure like a promise unkept. I watched from the edge, towel draped over my lap, warring with the pull in my gut. He surfaced, water sluicing off his skin, grinning up at me with that boyish charm that masked the man beneath. "Come on, Uncle Lucas. Live a little." I did, eventually, slipping into the chill that shocked the heat from my bones. We floated side by side, shoulders brushing in the current, and for a stolen hour, felt almost normal. Almost like uncle and nephew, not the tangled knot we'd become. But normal shattered that evening. Sarah called as we grilled fajitas on the balcony, the sizzle of peppers masking the ringtone's trill. "Lucas, how's my boy holding up? He sounded off last week." "He's good," I lied, flipping a tortilla, Elijah's eyes on me like a brand. "Real good. Thinking about switching majors to film or something artsy." She chuckled, that warm, throaty sound that always made me homesick for the ranch. "As long as it's not one of those liberal causes. You know how Round Rock is, folks talk." We hung up, and Elijah set his plate down untouched. "I'm telling her tomorrow. When she picks me up." Panic flared, hot and irrational. "You can't. Not like this." "Like what?" "The truth." His voice rose, drawing a glance from the neighbor's window. "Or are you scared she'll see right through you?" The argument spilled out like bad moonshine, accusations flying, old wounds ripped open. He called me a coward for marrying Melissa, for hiding behind the uncle facade. I hurled back that he was a kid playing with fire, that blood ties weren't kindling for this blaze. By midnight, he stormed out, slamming the door on my pleas, the echo reverberating through the empty apartment like a death knell. I didn't sleep. Instead, paced, chain-smoking camels on the balcony, the city's pulse mocking my isolation. Dawn crept in again, gray and unforgiving, and with it came the knock, soft, hesitant. Elijah, returning with a duffel slung over his shoulder, eyes red-rimmed but defiant. "I'm not leaving," he said, dropping the bag. "Not until you admit it." that you feel it too. And God help me, in that fractured light, with the weight of secrets pressing down. I did. The admission slipped out like a sigh I'd held for decades, soft against the dawn's hush. Yeah, Elijah. I feel it. Have for longer than I should. His name on my lips felt like sacrilege and salvation, the syllables wrapping around us like smoke from a dying fire. He crossed the room in a blur, pulling me into an embrace that started tentative, arms loose, breaths sinking like hesitant dancers, but ignited into something fiercer, his mouth crashing against mine with the desperation of a man parched in the desert. It was wrong, every inch of it, taboo etched in bloodlines and Bible verses, but in that kiss, Austin's sprawl faded, leaving only the heat of his skin under my hands, the salt of his tears mingling with mine. We stumbled back to the bed, a tangle of limbs and whispered apologies, the sheets twisting around us like conspirators. His touch was exploratory, reverent, tracing the scars on my chest from a bar fight in '89, the faded tattoo of a lone star over my heart. "You're beautiful," he murmured, voice husky with awe, and for the first time in years, I believed it. We didn't make love. Not fully, not yet, but the boundary blurred, hands wandering paths we'd only dreamed of in solitude. When we finally broke apart, gasping, the sun was fully up, casting judgmental beams across the floor. Reality crashed in like a hangover. Sarah due at noon, the family barbecue tomorrow, the whole damn world waiting to judge. "We can't," I said, pulling away, though my body screamed otherwise. Elijah propped on an elbow, hair tousled, a lazy smile playing on lips still swollen from mine. "We already did." The morning dragged in a haze of stolen glances and loaded silences. I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead, while he showered, the water's patter a veil for my racing thoughts. What now? Run? Deny? Or dive headlong into this madness? Consequences be damned? Sarah arrived early, her Ford F-150 kicking up dust in the parking lot like an omen. She swept in with hugs and Tupperware, casseroles for the fridge, brisket for the road, her perfume a cloud of lavender and judgment. "You two look like hell," she laughed, ruffling Elijah's damp hair. "Late night. Studying," he lied smoothly, and I marveled at the ease, the mask he'd perfected. Me? I busied myself with bags, avoiding her eyes, the guilt a lead weight in my chest. The drive back to Round Rock was torture, Sarah at the wheel, chattering about church potlucks and her latest prayer chain for wayward souls. Elijah rode shotgun, me in the back like a guilty afterthought, our knees brushing when she hit bumps, electric sparks in the confined space. He caught my eye in the rear view, a flicker of promise or warning, and I looked away, heart pounding. Home was the ranch house, all white clapboard and wraparound porch, the kind of place that screamed American dream but hid nightmares in the closets. Dad's old recliner still sat sentinel in the living room, worn from years of silence after Mom passed. Sarah had turned the place into a shrine to normalcy. Cross-stitched verses on the walls, photos of Elijah in Little League, me in my army dress blues, cropped to hide the buddies I'd loved in the shadows. That night, the family gathered for barbecue under the live oaks, strings of Edison bulbs swaying in the breeze like fireflies on steroids. Cousins, aunts, uncles 24 strong, plates piled with ribs slathered in stubs, corn on the cob dripping butter. Laughter boomed, beers clinked, and for a moment, I almost forgot. Almost. But Elijah was a magnet, drawing my gaze across the picnic tables. He bantered with his cousins, all drawls and backslaps, but his eyes sought mine, dark with secrets. When he excused himself to the barn, I followed minutes later, heart in my throat, the screen doors creak lost in the fiddles from the Bluetooth speaker. The barn smelled of hay and leather, moonlight slanting through slats like prison bars. He waited in the loft, silhouette against the stars, and when I climbed the ladder, he pulled me close, our kiss hungrier this time, laced with the risk of voices just yards away. "I love you," he breathed against my neck, the words a brand. "Not like family. Like this." I melted into him, hands fisting his shirt, the world narrowing to the thud of our pulses. We didn't go further, too dangerous, too close to the edge, but the promise hummed between us, a live wire. It was Uncle Ray who nearly unraveled it all. Sarah's brother-in-law, a burly ex-oil man with a mustache like a broom and opinions to match, cornered me by the cooler. "Heard your boy's been actin' up in Austin, Lucas. Skip-in classes, hangin' with the wrong crowd." His eyes narrowed, beer gut straining his polo. "You set in a good example?" I forced a laugh, cracking a Shiner Bock. "Elijah's fine, right? Just sowin' wild oats." "Oats or sins?" he grunted, spitting tobacco juice into the grass. "This family's God-fearin'. Don't need no rainbow flags wavin'." The warning lingered like smoke as the night wound down, fireworks popping over the hill in premature 4th of July glory. Elijah and I stole away to the old tire swing by the creek, dangling our feet in the muddy water, the current tugging like temptation. "Ray suspects," I said, voice low. "Let him." Elijah's hand found mine under the cover of darkness, fingers lacing tight. "I'm done hiding," but hiding was survival. The next week blurred, Elijah back at UT, me back at the garage, wrenching on transmissions and dodging Sarah's calls. Texts from him lit my phone like flares. "Miss you. Barn tomorrow." I deleted them, then saved screenshots, a digital diary of our downfall. The betrayal came swift as a rattlesnake strike. Mid-October, harvest moon fat and orange. Sarah called in hysterics. "Elijah's gone," packed a bag, left a note, something about finding himself. "And Lucas. Oh God, he mentioned you." My blood froze. The note. I pieced it from her sobs. "Mom, I can't live the lie anymore. Uncle Lucas gets it. He's the only one." Vague enough to dodge bullets, but in Sarah's world, it was a grenade. She showed up at my door that night, rain lashing the windows like accusations, her face a mask of fury and fear. "What the hell did you do to my son?" "Nothing." I lied, but she shoved past, rifling drawers like a detective on a binge. She found it then, the crumpled photo from Barton Springs, Elijah and me mid-laugh, arms slung casual but telling. And tucked in the frame, a scribbled note, "To the man who sees me. E." Her scream shattered the air. "You pervert. Grooming him. Your own blood. I'll call the cops. The church. Everyone. Sarah. Listen." I grabbed her arm, but she wrenched free, eyes wild. "You're sick, Lucas. Always were." Melissa knew. Dad knew. And now Elijah, God forgive you. She stormed out, tires squealing into the storm, leaving me hollowed out, the photo fluttering to the floor like a fallen leaf. I called Elijah voicemail, then a text, run. She's coming for us. His reply, I'm at the motel on I-35. Come get me. We end this together. The drive was a blur, wipers slapping rhythm like a war drum, thunder rumbling my regrets. The motel was a dive, neon vacancy sign flickering like a bad omen, rooms rented by the hour for sins less poetic than ours. Elijah opened the door in boxers and a UTT, pulling me inside before the lightning could strike. We fell into bed, frantic, the rain a curtain against the world. This time, there were no barriers, clothes shed like old skins, bodies joining in a rhythm as old as heartache. He was tender, fierce, whispering my name like a prayer, and in the crest of it, I shattered, tears mixing with sweat. I love you, I gasped, the truth freer than fear. After, tangled in cheap sheets, we plotted escape. California, he said, tracing circles on my chest. San Francisco. Start over. But dawn brought clarity and cops. Sarah had made good on her threat, a welfare check turning into questions, her statement painting me as predator. They hauled Elijah away for protective custody, his wrists cuffed like a criminal, eyes locked on mine through the cruiser's window fight. The arrest was a media circus, local news sniffing blood, headlines screaming, family scandal rocks Round Rock. Uncle accused in Nephew's confusion. Protests erupted outside the courthouse. Rainbow flags waving beside picket signs decrying moral decay. Sarah testified, voice breaking, but her eyes, cold as steel, betrayal etched deep. The courtroom in Travis County smelled of polished oak and desperation, the kind that clung to the air like spilled coffee. Bail was set high. $50K I didn't have, but a bondsman fronted it, his smirk promising collections with interest. Elijah was released to a safe house, some church run halfway for troubled youth, monitored like a lab rat. Sarah got a restraining order, barring me from Round Rock, from him, from the life we torched in one reckless dawn. I holed up in Austin, the apartment a tomb of takeout boxes and empty bottles. Work dried up, customers whispering behind oil-stained hands, the boss muttering about distractions. Nights blurred into marathons of regret. Scrolling X, formerly Twitter, for scraps. Elijah Lucas, trolls spewing vitriol, allies hashtagging support. One viral thread dissected us like a biology frog. Incestuous undertones? Or queer liberation? Comments piled like debris after a flood. Half calling for my lynching, half hailing Elijah as a martyr. He smuggled messages through a cousin. Sympathetic Jenna. They pray over me daily. But I dream of you. Hold on. I did, clawing through depositions and shrinks evaluations. The DA building a case on corruption of a minor, though Elijah, at 19, was legally free. But family, that was the real court. Judge and jury rolled into Sarah's righteous glare. The confrontation came unannounced, her knocking a battering ram at midnight. I opened the door, chain still latched, her face gaunt under the porch light, rain from an earlier squall frizzing her hair. "We need to talk," she said, no preamble, pushing past like she owned the place. The kitchen table became our battlefield, mugs of untouched tea steaming between us. "Why, Lucas," her voice cracked, not with anger now, but something rawer grief. "He was my baby. Innocent. And you were supposed to protect him." "I did," I shot back, the words bitter. From the same bullshit you shoved down his throat. The lies, the shame. He came to me broken, Sarah. I didn't break him more. I gave him truth. Truth, she laughed. A hollow bark. Your truth is poison. Dad rolled in his grave knowing his son was unnatural. And Elijah, he's confused because of you. Those Austin freaks. Filling his head with filth. Unnatural. I leaned forward, the chair creaking under me. You gonna quote Leviticus now? Stone us both? I loved Melissa. Tried like hell to be straight for you, for the family. But it's who I am. And Elijah, he's the same. We didn't choose it. We chose each other because no one else would. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over like cracks in a dam. I saw it in him young. The way he'd stare at the boys' soccer team, not the cheerleaders. I prayed harder, sent him to camps. Thought the army would fix you, but look at us now. Monsters in the mirror. The admission hung there, a bridge over the chasm. For the first time, I saw her, not the crusader, but the sister who'd lost Dad too early, married a ghost of a man who bolted at the first sign of her strength. We'd both been hiding, armor forged from the same forge. Then let him go, I said softly. Stop the case. Let him choose. She stood, chair scraping, but paused at the door. I can't. Not yet. But tell him I'm sorry. For the prayers that hurt more than helped. She left, and I slid to the floor, sobs racking me like fever chills. Sorry was a start, but the machine ground on court dates looming, media hounds bang. Climax hit like a Longhorn stampede. Thanksgiving week, the trial proper kicked off, the gallery packed with gawkers and gospel singers, their hymns a dirge outside the doors. Elijah took the stand first, scrubbed clean in a button-down, but his eyes blazed with the fire I'd kindled. I love him, he declared, voice steady as rebar. Facing the judge, a stern woman with silver hair and a rainbow pin discreetly on her lapel. Not as family. As a man. He didn't groom me, he saved me. From drowning in silence. Gasps rippled, Sarah's hand flying to her mouth in the front row. The prosecutor pounced, twisting words into knots. You say love, mister. Hayes, but isn't this obsession influenced by your uncles? Lifestyle, lifestyle. Elijah's laugh was sharp. Call it what it is, identity. And yeah, maybe seeing him live free lit a match. But the fire, that's mine. My turn came next, sweat beading under the collar of my thrift store suit. I testified to the dawn confession, the kisses born of mutual ache, framing it not as predation but partnership. We're two souls adrift in a sea of expectations, I said, voice cracking. Family's supposed to be harbor, not hurricane. The betrayal deepened when Uncle Ray took the stand for the prosecution. His testimony a venomous spill. Always knew Lucas was off. Caught him once, as a teen, with the ranch hand. Now he's poisoned the boy. Lies layered on half-truths. The ranch hand a chaste crush. Nothing more but it stung. Ray's eyes avoiding mine. Guilt masked as piety. Outside, protests swelled. Queer activists chanting love is love. Counter-protesters waving God hates fags. Signs like Confederate flags. A bottle sailed through the air, shattering near Elijah's feet as we recessed. He grabbed my hand, defiant, and we ran into the fray, cameras flashing like lightning. That night, in a safe house on the city's east side, we collapsed together, the adrenaline crash leaving us raw. "It's not over," he murmured, head on my chest, the steady thump of my heart his lullaby. "No," I agreed, kissing his temple. "But we're in it now." Together, the judge recessed for deliberations, 2 days stretching like eternities. We holed up, binging bootleg DVDs of Brokeback Mountain, ironic, heartbreaking, and plotting futures. Film school for him in LA, me tagging along as consultant, our love a quiet revolution. But doubt gnawed. Sarah's silence deafening, Ray's words a specter. On the third day, the verdict dropped like a gavel from heaven. Case dismissed. Insufficient evidence of coercion. Elijah's testimony deemed credible. Cheers erupted from our side, hugs from strangers bearing pride flags. Sarah stood frozen, then approached, tentative. I dropped the charges. For him, Elijah hugged her, tears flowing, and she whispered, "Forgive me." He nodded, and in that nod, a fracture mended, not whole, but scarred over. But freedom was fleeting. Ray, unbowed, leaked to the press, old photos, doctored stories, painting us as abominations. The family splintered, cousins ghosting, aunts sending scripture via mail. We fled Austin the next week, piling into my beat-up Chevy, bound for the coast. Highway 290 unspooled like a promise. Hill country rolling past in greens and golds, the radio crooning Lucinda Williams ballads of lost love. Elijah drove, hand on my thigh, the road our confessional. "Where to first?" he asked, wind whipping his hair. "Big Sur," I said. "Cliffs and ocean. Room to breathe." We stopped in Fredericksburg for peach pie and whispers, the diner's locals eyeing us but saying nothing, Texas thawing, one small town at a time. By nightfall, we hit the Gulf, salt air a bomb, crashing waves echoing our chaos. The Pacific welcomed us like an old lover, vast and indifferent, Highway 1 hugging cliffs that plunged into turquoise fury. We ditched the Chevy in San Francisco for a battered VW van, Elijah's impulse buy from a Craigslist ad, painted with peace signs and a bumper sticker reading "Love Wins." It rattled like our nerves, but it was freedom on wheels, a rolling confessional from Austin's ashes. San Fran was a revelation. Castro Street alive with rainbow crosswalks, men hand in hand without a second glance, drag brunches spilling laughter onto sidewalks. We crashed at a hostel first night, bunk beds creaking under our weight, but by morning, we'd found a studio in the Mission peeling paint, exposed brick, a window overlooking Ticarius and murals of Aztec gods. Rent was a stretch, me picking up shifts at a mechanic shop, Elijah waitering at a queer bar called The Mint, slinging cosmos to patrons who tipped in winks and wisdom. Nights were ours, tangled in thrift store sheets, exploring each other with the curiosity of castaways. He was insatiable, tracing my laugh lines with fingertips, murmuring poetry cribbed from Ferlinghetti books scavenged from city lights. "You're my mountain," he'd say, breath hot against my collarbone, and I'd lose myself in him, the world reduced to the arch of his back, the hitch in his gasp. But scars itched. Letters from Sarah arrived sporadic, first stiff apologies, then softer, enclosing photos of the ranch dusted in snow, Elijah's old room untouched like a museum of what-ifs. Healing takes time, she wrote. Love you both. In God's way. Ray? Radio silence. A ghost banished to Round Rock's shadows. The controversy reignited via a podcast. Some true crime hack dissecting the Hayes scandal, interviewing sources close to the family. Clips went viral. Ray's voice, gravelly and aggrieved, spinning yarns of my predatory history. Trolls doxed us, eggs splattering our door, slurs scrawled in marker, fags go home. Elijah laughed it off at first, posting defiant selfies, us kissing against the Golden Gate, caption still here, still us. But the darkness crept in, shadows under his eyes from nightmares of cuffs and courtrooms. We fought, of course, first real one in a taqueria, over his insistence on going public. Why hide now? He demanded, salsa staining his shirt, eyes flashing. We're free. Free. I slammed my fork down, the clang drawing stairs. Those assholes could cost you school, me my job. It's not just us. It's survival. He stormed out, into the fog-shrouded streets, and I chased, catching him on Valencia, rain slicking our skin. I'm scared, I admitted, pulling him close, the admission a dam breaking. Of losing you. Of this being all we get. He softened, forehead to mine. Then fight with me. Not against. We did, channeling the rage into art. Elijah enrolling at SFSU. Film classes birthing shorts about forbidden love. Screened at underground queer fests where audiences wept and cheered. I tagged along, the grizzled vet in the crowd, my applause the loudest. One night, after a Q&A where he outed our story raw and real, a producer slipped him a card, true story potential. Think Brokeback meets Call Me by Your Name. Ambition bloomed, but so did doubt. Christmas loomed. Sarah's invite a olive branch. Come home. One dinner. For Elijah, he begged. I's pleading, and I relented. The flight back to Austin a knot in my gut. Round Rock under holiday lights was a fairy tale facade. Wreaths on porches. Carols piping from speakers. But tension crackled like static. Sarah hugged us stiffly at the door. The house scented with gingerbread and pine. The tree twinkling with ornaments from childhood Christmases. Ray was there, of course, looming in the den, mustache twitching, but he grunted a hello, eyes averted. Dinner was a minefield. Turkey carved with precision. Grace said over clasped hands. Sarah's voice trembling through the Lord's Prayer. Conversation skirted edges. Elijah's films. My shop tales. Until Ray cleared his throat. Plate pushed aside. Heard you're making a movie about this. His gesture encompassed us. Vague but venomous. Elijah met his gaze. Fork midway to mouth. Yeah. Our story. The real one. Ray's laugh was a bark. Real? Boy, your romanticism filth. Family don't work that way. Family? Sarah interjected, voice sharp. You left your own wife for that secretary, right? Glass houses. The table froze, silverware silent. Ray flushed crimson, sputtering, but Sarah pressed on, turning to us. I was wrong. About the camps, the prayers. Saw it on TV, a couple like you, married legal now. If God made you this way, maybe he's got a plan. Tears pricked my eyes. Sarah, my Sarah, extending grace. Elijah reached for her hand, and Ray, he stood abruptly, chair toppling, storming out into the snow-dusted yard. "Ungrateful sinners," he muttered, door slamming like final judgment. We didn't chase him. Instead, pie was served, stories swapped, Elijah's first crush, my Vietnam letters home, edited for tenderness. As midnight tolled, Sarah pulled me aside in the kitchen, dishwater sudsing her elbows. "He's stronger than me," she said of Elijah. "But you gave him that." "Thank you." The reconciliation was fragile, a truce in no man's land, but it mended something frayed. Back in San Fran, New Year's brought revelry. Fireworks over the bay, us on a rooftop with a bottle of Veuve and vows whispered. To us. Always. Spring unfurled with promise. Elijah's short winning at frame line. The fest's crowd roaring as credits rolled. For Lucas, my dawn. Offers trickled in. A web series greenlit. And I quit the garage for creative consulting. Our van traded for a hybrid Prius that hummed like contentment. But betrayal's echo lingered. Summer solstice. Package arrived, no sender. Ray's scrawl inside. Clippings from Austin papers. Yellowed with age. My old arrest record. Namera. A bar brawl masking a lover's quarrel. And beside it, forged docs implying Elijah's coercion. A note. And it, or this goes public. Family first. Rage boiled, but Elijah cooled it, his calm an anchor. Let him. We've got truth on our side. We went public on our terms. A joint interview with Out magazine. Photos by Annie Leibovitz. Us on Baker Beach. Waves crashing. Hands clasped against the horizon. Headlines shifted. From scandal to stardom. The lovers who redefined family. Ray's leaks fizzled. Debunked as spite. And in the fallout, he called voice gruff over crackly line. Saw the article. You happy? Yeah, I said, Elijah's head on my shoulder. We are. A pause. Then good. Tell the boy. Uncle Ray's proud. In his way, the call ended, a bridge half-burned but standing. We didn't rush back, but seeds were planted, forgiveness as a slow bloom. Fall brought harvest of our own, Elijah's thesis film, Dawn's Confession, premiering at Sundance. The standing ovation shook the theater, critics raving. A humanistic triumph, raw, romantic, unapologetically American. Sarah flew out, front row, clapping till her palms blistered, whispering after, my son. My heroes. In the after-party, amid champagne flutes and schmoozes, Elijah pulled me to the balcony, Park City lights twinkling below. Marry me? He asked, ring box velvet in his pocket, a simple band, tungsten etched with stars. Tears blurred the view. Yes. God, yes. The wedding was a quiet affair, June's golden haze draping the cliffs of Big Sur, where redwoods whispered blessings and the Pacific roared approval. No tuxes, just linen shirts rolled at the cuffs, khakis sandy from the beach, bare feet sinking into cool grains. Sarah officiated, her voice steady as she borrowed from Corinthians. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. Ray sent a card, and signed but unmistakable, to new beginnings. R. It sat on the altar beside Elijah's childhood Bible, a relic redeemed. Vows were simple, etched in our bones. I promise to walk with you through dawns and storms, to hold your truths as my own. Rings exchanged under a chuppah of driftwood and wildflowers, kissed to cheers from a handful of guests. Jenna and her wife, the podcast producer turned director, queer kin we'd claimed in San Fran's embrace. Cake was key lime, tart as our trials, and as we cut in, Elijah's laugh bubbled free, unshadowed. Honeymoon was the road itself, van reclaimed for a cross-country loop, chasing Route 60 SIXS ghosts from California to Chicago, then east to New York, where we danced in dive bars and marveled at pride marches that dwarfed Austin's fledgling steps. In the Smokies, we hiked to overlooks, breaths mingling in crisp air, his hand in mine a talisman against the drop. Back home, life settled into rhythms humanistic and hard-won. Elijah's film snagged an Oscar nod, Best Short, the ceremony a whirlwind of gowns and grips, us in matching velvet jackets, my hand sweating in his as he thanked the man who taught me courage. Sarah beamed from the audience, Ray notably absent but texting proud. Don't let it change you. Mine was quieter. A memoir, Dawn's Shadow, ghosted for therapy more than glory, pages spilling confessions to heal the boy who'd hidden in foxholes. Sold modestly, enough for a down payment on a cottage in the Castro, Victorian gingerbread, garden-bursting bougainvillea, a porch swing for sunset whiskeys. Challenges came, as they do Elijah's sophomore slump, scripts rejected, imposter syndrome gnawing like termites. We'd argue in the kitchen, voices rising over reheated burritos, but always circle back. Apologies in bed, makeup slow and sacred, reaffirming the choice. Family wove tighter, threads frayed but enduring. Sarah visited quarterly, her prayers evolving to inclusive graces, even joining a PFLAG chapter back home. Round rocks changing, she'd say, sipping herbal tea. 2 boys married at the Baptist Hall last month. Miracles. Ray's thaw was glacial, a fishing trip to Tahoe, gruff silences broken by flycasting lessons, his mustache twitching at our linked pinkies. Don't mean I get it, he'd grunt, reeling in trout. But I get love. Lost mine chasing ghosts. Elijah hugged him goodbye, and Ray patted his back. Awkward, but there. Years folded like accordions. Elijah's feature debut, Forbidden Horizon, a Sundance darling exploring intergenerational queer love, critics hailing its emotional depth and American grit. We adopted a rescue mutt, Jasper, who snored at our feet during script reads. I mentored at the LGBTQ Center, sharing war stories to kids fresh from closets, their eyes wide like Elijah's at 19. The high drama peaked again at 50. My heart, traitorous organ, stuttering during a jog along Ocean Beach. Ambulance wail. ICU beeps. Elijah's face pale above me. Don't you dare leave. I pulled through. Stent and statins my badges. Emerging humbled, clinging tighter. Recovery was romance reborn. Elijah reading Kerouac aloud by my bedside. Sarah flying in with brisket. Even Ray video calling from his recliner. Tough SOBs run in the family. It reframed us. Not invincible, but interlocked. Vulnerabilities the mortar in our walls. Now, at 60-something, we rock on that porch swing. Jasper's ghost long gone, but his paw prints etched in memory. Austin calls us back yearly, for barbecues where rainbows fly beside lone stars, for panels on queer kinship in the heartland. Sarah's gray now, remarried to a widow from her group, 2 women holding hands at church. Scandal turned sacrament. Elijah's silver threads my hair, his scripts fewer but deeper, ours a love story etched in celluloid and scars. Regrets, few the years lost to hiding, the family fractures that linger like faint lines on a palm. But joy's eclipse, the dawn he proposed again, on one knee in our kitchen, for the encore, the way he still shivers under my touch, whispering, "Always you, America," for all its controversies, its thumpers and trolls, its marches and mandates, taught us this: love isn't a battlefield won, but a garden tended, weeds pulled with calloused hands. We're the tillers, Elijah and I, our roots tangled deep in Texas soil, branches reaching for California sun. Changed forever? Damn right. But in the best way, human, whole, unapologetic. As the sun dips, painting the bay in fire, he leans into me, breath warm on my neck. What now, old man? Now? I kiss his temple, the world soft around us. We keep confessing. Every dawn, and so we do.